The night Amara discovered who was feeding the baby, she screamed so loud the entire village woke up. But by then it was too late. The truth had already been revealed, and what she saw under that flickering oil lamp would haunt her forever. This is the story of a dead woman's love, a living woman's envy, and a baby caught between two mothers, one buried beneath the earth, one sleeping in her husband's bed. No one believed it at first. How could a spirit nurse a child? How could jealousy blind a woman so deeply that she would war against a ghost? But I tell you, this story is true. It happened in our village, in a compound surrounded by whispering palm trees, where the moonlight still feels heavy with secrets. Some say the baby's cries could be heard every night, sharp and endless, until something or someone came to soothe him. Others say the grandmother knew all along, but kept silent, praying to spirits no one else could see. What I know for certain is this: Amara tried everything to stop it. She burned clothes, bought charms, and cursed the dead. But love, my child, does not die when the body does. And the baby? He knew his real mother's touch. And Kim died the way many mothers do, quietly, with her baby's first cry ringing in her ears. The midwife said she bled too much. Her husband, Abadike, held her hand as the light left her eyes. She whispered only one thing before she went: "Promise me, you will take care of him." Abadike promised. But promises made in grief are heavy, and he was a man who could not carry them alone. The baby was healthy, loud, and always hungry. But without his mother's milk, he cried endlessly. The grandmother tried everything: goat's milk, mashed yam, even herbs from the healer. Nothing worked. The village women whispered that the child was calling for his mother. Some said his spirit was confused, searching for the warmth that brought him into the world. Abadike buried Kim beneath a young palm tree near the stream. The whole village came. They sang for her, poured libations, and prayed that her journey to the ancestors would be peaceful. But even as they covered her grave with red earth, the baby wailed in his grandmother's arms. And that night, under a sky full of stars, something began that no one could explain. 3 months after Kim's death, Abadike remarried. The village elders said it was necessary. A man with a newborn cannot survive alone. His new wife, Amara, came from a nearby town. She was beautiful, proud, and eager to prove herself. She arrived with expensive wrappers, perfumed hair, and a smile that showed all her teeth. The grandmother did not smile back. Amara moved into the room that once belonged to Kim. She rearranged the furniture, burned strong incense, and replaced the curtains. She wanted no trace of the dead woman in her space. But the baby's room, she left that alone. At first, Amara tried to be a good mother. She held the baby, sang to him, and offered her breast. But the child would not take it. He would scream, twist his face, and refuse her completely. This wounded Amara's pride deeply. She began to resent the baby. Why wouldn't he accept her? She was alive. She was here. His real mother was gone. Yet every time she held him, he cried as if she were a stranger. And every night, just after midnight, the crying would suddenly stop, even though no one had entered the room. The first strange thing happened on a quiet Tuesday night. Amara woke to the baby's cries, as usual. She dragged herself from bed, annoyed and exhausted. But when she reached the nursery door, the crying had stopped. She pushed it open slowly. The room was still. The baby lay peacefully in his crib, eyes closed, breathing softly. On the small table beside him sat a wooden bowl of milk, half empty. Amara froze. She had not left any milk there. She looked around the dark room. No one else was inside. The windows were shut. The door had been closed. Her heart began to race. She picked up the bowl and smelled it. Fresh, warm. She looked at the baby's lips. They were wet, as if he had just been fed. "Who did this?" she whispered to the shadows. No answer came. She carried the bowl to the grandmother's room and knocked hard. The old woman opened the door, eyes heavy with sleep. "Did you feed him?" Amara demanded. The grandmother shook her head slowly. "I have been asleep since sunset, my daughter." "Then who?" Amara's voice shook. The grandmother looked past her toward the nursery and said softly, Some hungers are not of this world. The next morning, Amara told her husband what happened. Abadike dismissed her concerns. "You probably forgot you left the milk there yourself," he said, chewing his breakfast. "I did not forget," Amara insisted. "Someone enough." His voice was sharp. "You're tired. New mothers imagine things." But Amara was not imagining it. That night, she stayed awake. She sat in the corridor outside the nursery, wrapped in a thick shawl, watching the door. The baby cried at his usual time, sharp, desperate wails. Amara did not move. She waited. After a few minutes, the crying began to soften, then stopped completely. Amara's skin prickled. She stood slowly and walked to the door. Her hand trembled as she pushed it open. Inside, the baby was calm, sucking gently on nothing, his tiny fists curled in satisfaction. And there, on his blanket, lay a single white hibiscus flower, Kim's favorite. Amara's breath caught in her throat. She stumbled backward, her heart pounding so loud she thought it would wake the whole house. She did not sleep that night. She sat on her bed, staring at the flower she had clutched in her hand, wondering if the dead could really return. Amara began to watch the baby more carefully. Every night, the same thing happened. He would cry. Then, mysteriously, he would calm down. And every morning, there would be signs: an empty milk bowl, a moved blanket, the faint smell of jasmine in the air. Kim used to wear jasmine oil. Amara remembered because the scent had lingered in the room even after she scrubbed it clean. Now it was back. She accused the servants. One by one, she questioned them harshly. "Did you go into the baby's room last night?" They all said no. She threatened them, offered them money to confess, but no one admitted anything. Finally, she turned to the grandmother. "You," Amara said, her voice cold. "You're doing this. You're sneaking in at night to feed him, aren't you? To make me look bad." The grandmother's face remained calm. "I'm an old woman, my daughter. My knees are weak. I cannot move silently through this house at night." "Then explain the milk. Explain the flowers." The grandmother's eyes softened with something close to pity. "Some things cannot be explained, Amara. Only accepted." "I will not accept it," Amara shouted. But the grandmother only sighed and turned away, murmuring a prayer under her breath. That night, Amara decided she would catch whoever, or whatever, was entering the nursery. She hid behind the thick curtain near the window, an oil lamp in her hand. The flame flickered softly, casting long shadows on the walls. She waited. The house was silent except for the baby's soft breathing. Then, just after midnight, he began to cry. Amara tensed, gripping the curtain tightly. The crying grew louder, more desperate. Then she heard it, a soft humming. A woman's voice, low and gentle, singing a lullaby. Amara's blood turned cold. The voice was coming from inside the room. She peeked out from behind the curtain, her hands shaking so badly the lamp nearly fell. And there, in the pale glow of the moonlight streaming through the window, she saw her. A woman in white. Her back was turned, but Amara could see her long dark hair, her slender shoulders, the way she rocked the baby gently in her arms. The humming continued, soft and soothing. The baby's cries faded into silence. Amara wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The figure turned slowly. Her face was calm, peaceful, beautiful. It was Nkem. Amara gasped, and the figure vanished like smoke. Amara stumbled out of the nursery, her chest heaving, her vision blurred with tears. She ran to her husband's room and shook him awake. "Abadike! Abadike, wake up!" He groaned, pushing her hand away. "What is it now?" "I saw her," Amara whispered, her voice trembling. "I saw Nkem. She was in the baby's room. She was holding him." Abadike sat up slowly, his face hard. "You saw what?" "Your dead wife. She's been feeding the baby at night. I saw her with my own eyes." Abadike's jaw tightened. "You are speaking madness, Amara." "I am not mad. She was there. I saw her. She was wearing white, and enough." Abadike's voice echoed through the room. "My wife is dead and buried. You will not disrespect her memory with your foolish fears." Amara's hand shook. "I know what I saw. You saw shadows. You saw your own guilt." "Guilt? For what?" "For hating a dead woman. Abadike said quietly. His words cut deeper than any blade. Amara wanted to argue, to make him believe her, but she saw the disgust in his eyes. He thought she was jealous, petty, disturbed, and perhaps, in some way, she was. The next morning, Amara's hair smelled like jasmine. She washed it 3 times, scrubbed her scalp until it hurt, but the scent would not leave. The grandmother noticed. "You smell like Kim," she said quietly. Amara's hands froze. "What did you say?" "Jasmine. That was her scent. She wore it every day." "Stop," Amara whispered. "It means she was close to you last night." I said stop. Amara screamed. But the grandmother did not stop. She continued calmly. "You cannot fight a mother's love, my daughter. Not with anger. Not with pride. She is dead. Her body is. But love does not die when the flesh does." Amara wanted to slap the old woman, to shake sense into her, but something held her back. Deep down, she knew the grandmother was right. That night, Amara could not sleep. Every creak of the house made her jump. Every shadow seemed to move. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the baby's cries start, and then stop. She did not go to check. She was too afraid. By morning, her eyes were red and swollen. She looked like a woman being haunted, and she was. Amara began to hate the baby. She could not help it. Every time she looked at him, she saw Kim's face. Every time he smiled at something unseen, she felt a cold jealousy twist in her chest. The villagers praised the child. "He is so calm now," they said. "So peaceful. What a blessing." But Amara knew the truth. He was calm because his real mother was caring for him. She, the living wife, had been replaced by a ghost. One evening, the grandmother gathered the servants for prayer. She placed a wooden bowl of milk beside the baby's crib and whispered softly, "If your love remains, Kim, feed your child in peace. We will not disturb you." Amara watched from the doorway, fury rising in her throat. When the grandmother left, Amara stormed into the room. She grabbed the bowl and hurled it against the wall. Milk splattered everywhere. "No more," she shouted into the empty room. "You are dead. Leave us alone." The baby stared at her, wide-eyed and silent. That night, Amara did not hear him cry. But in the morning, the bowl was back on the table, full, untouched, as if nothing had happened. Amara's hands trembled as she stared at it. This was no longer just fear. It was war. Desperate, Amara went to see Mama Odiu, the village priestess. The old woman lived at the edge of the forest, in a small hut surrounded by clay pots and hanging herbs. Amara knocked softly. "Enter," came a raspy voice. Inside, Mama Odiu sat on a low stool, stirring something in a blackened pot. Her eyes were milky with age, but they saw everything. "You carry a heavy spirit," Mama Odiu said without looking up. "I need help," Amara whispered. "A ghost is in my house." "Not a ghost. A mother." Amara's breath caught. "How do you—" "Love interrupted does not rest, child. It finds cracks in the world and slips through. Then help me send her away. Please." Mama Odiu stopped stirring and looked at Amara with those cloudy eyes. "Why would you send away a mother who only wants to feed her child?" "Because I am his mother now." Amara's voice broke. "I am alive. I am here. But she makes me invisible." Mama Odiu was silent for a long moment. Then she said softly, "If you drive her away, she will take what she came for." Amara's blood ran cold. What does that mean? But Mama Odiu only turned back to her pot, stirring slowly, and said nothing more. Amara left Mama Odiu's hut with more fear than answers. But on her way back, she passed a traveling merchant selling charms and powders. "Protection from spirits," he whispered with a crooked smile. "Strong magic. Guaranteed." Amara hesitated, remembering Mama Odiu's warning. But her pride was stronger than her caution. She bought a small pouch of black powder. "Sprinkle it around the room where the spirit appears," the merchant instructed. "It will drive away anything not of this world." That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Amara entered the nursery. Her hands shook as she opened the pouch. The powder smelled like burnt hair and old bones. She sprinkled it in the corners, around the crib, along the windowsill. "Stay away," she whispered. "This is my house. My family. You don't belong here anymore. The air in the room grew heavy. The oil lamp flickered. And then, the baby began to scream. Not a normal cry. A wail so sharp and full of terror that it shook the walls. Amara dropped the pouch, her heart racing. The windows rattled. The door slammed shut. And from somewhere deep in the night, a woman's voice cried out, soft, mournful, and full of grief. The household woke in chaos. Abadike ran to the nursery, the grandmother right behind him. But when they pushed open the door, the room was empty. The crib was there. The blankets were there. But the baby, he was gone. Where is he? Abadike shouted, spinning around. Amara, where's my son? Amara stood frozen, her face pale as death. I don't know. What did you do? The grandmother whispered, her eyes wide with horror. I only tried to protect us. Amara cried. From what? Abadike grabbed her shoulders. From what, Amara? From her. From Kim. She won't leave him alone. Abadike's face twisted with rage and heartbreak. He pushed Amara aside and ran out into the night. The grandmother followed, calling the baby's name. Servants lit torches. Neighbors joined the search. They combed the compound, the garden, the pathway to the stream. Amara stood in the doorway, trembling, her mind spinning. What had she done? Where was the baby? And then, just before dawn, they found him, down by the riverbank, lying peacefully on a dry patch of grass, unharmed, asleep, and beside him, a single wet footprint. Small, delicate, a woman's. The grandmother picked up the baby carefully, tears streaming down her face. She whispered prayers of thanks, clutching him to her chest. Abadike stood at the river's edge, staring at the footprint. His face was unreadable. Who brought him here? One of the neighbors asked. No one answered. They all knew, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Amara stood at a distance, shaking. She had seen the footprint too. It was too small to be a man's, too delicate, and it was wet, even though the grass around it was completely dry. As the grandmother walked past her, she paused and whispered, She saved him from your foolishness. Do not test her again. Amara wanted to defend herself, to explain, but the words stuck in her throat. The baby opened his eyes briefly, looking straight at her. For a moment, she thought she saw something in his gaze. Not anger, not fear, just sadness, as if he knew, as if he understood that the woman holding him now was not the one who had carried him through the night. When they returned to the house, the black powder Amara had sprinkled was gone. The room smelled like jasmine again, and on the crib lay a fresh white flower. Abadike did not speak to Amara for days. He moved through the house like a shadow, his grief and shame weighing on him like stones. One night, he sat outside under the stars, holding the baby close. The grandmother joined him. I should have listened, he said quietly. She tried to tell me, but I thought she was just jealous. Love makes us blind, my son. I love Kim. Abadike's voice cracked. But I thought remarrying quickly was the right thing. For the baby. For the family. You did what you believed was best. But I didn't honor her. I let another woman erase her as if she never mattered. The grandmother placed a wrinkled hand on his shoulder. And Kim does not blame you. If she did, she would not still care for her child. Abadike looked down at the baby, who was smiling faintly in his sleep. What do I do now? Make peace, the grandmother said. Not with Amara. With Kim. Let her know you see her love. Let her know you remember. That night, Abadike went to Kim's grave. He knelt in the dirt, tears falling freely. Forgive me, he whispered. I never meant to forget you. The wind rustled through the palm leaves. Soft, gentle, like a breath. And for the first time in months, Abadike felt peace. But Amara did not feel peace. She felt rage. She had been humiliated, ignored, and made to look like a villain in her own home. This has to stop, she muttered to herself. She could not live like this, always second, always haunted. One night, after everyone had gone to bed, Amara gathered salt, dried herbs, and ash. She had heard the old women say that salt could banish spirits. She didn't care if it worked. She just needed to do something. She entered the nursery, her jaw set with determination. She sprinkled salt along the doorway, the windowsill, and around the crib. She whispered old words she barely understood, words her grandmother had once said over sick children. "Leave this place," she said, her voice shaking. "You're not welcome here anymore." The air grew cold, so cold her breath became visible. The door slammed shut behind her. Amara spun around, heart racing. And then she heard it, a voice. Soft, sad, right behind her. "Would you starve your own soul, Amara?" Amara froze. She turned slowly, but no one was there. Only the flickering oil lamp. And the baby, staring at her with wide, knowing eyes. Amara stumbled backward, her chest heaving. She looked at the mirror beside the crib. Its surface began to fog, slowly, as if someone had breathed on it. Then, through the mist, a face appeared. Kim. Her eyes were gentle, sorrowful. She was holding the baby, not the real one in the crib, but a shimmering image of him, cradled in her arms. Amara's knees buckled. What do you want from me?" she whispered. Kim's lips moved, though no sound came at first. Then, soft as a breeze, her voice filled the room. "You fear what you do not understand." "I fear you," Amara admitted, tears streaming down her face. "Why won't you leave?" "Because he is mine," Kim said, her voice breaking. "I carried him. I died giving him life. How can I leave when he still needs me?" "But I'm here now," Amara cried. "I can care for him." "Can you?" Kim's gaze was piercing. "Or do you only see him as proof that I am gone?" The word struck Amara like a blow. She opened her mouth to argue, but the truth silenced her. Kim's image began to fade. "Love him, Amara. Truly, and I will rest." Then she was gone. The mirror cleared, and Amara was left alone, trembling, staring at her own hollow reflection. The next morning, the baby refused to eat. No matter what the grandmother tried, he would not open his mouth. By midday, he had grown weak, his cries faint and tired. The healer was called. She examined him carefully, felt his forehead, checked his limbs. "There is no fever, no sickness I can see." "Then why won't he eat?" Abadike demanded. The healer looked at the grandmother, then at Amara. She said nothing, but her meaning was clear. Amara felt the weight of everyone's eyes on her. That night, she sat alone in the nursery, watching the baby struggle to breathe. Guilt gnawed at her insides like a beast. "I didn't mean for this," she whispered. I just wanted to be enough." The baby's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, Amara thought he was looking at her, but his gaze drifted past her toward the window. Amara turned. There, faint as moonlight, stood Kim. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She only looked at her child with such longing that Amara felt her heart crack. "Please," Amara whispered. "Help him." Kim's gaze shifted to her. Slowly, she nodded. And then, like a dream dissolving, she was gone. The baby's breathing eased. His color returned. And Amara wept. The next night, Amara did not hide. She did not fight. She sat quietly in the corner of the nursery and waited. Just after midnight, the baby began to cry. And then, she appeared. Kim walked through the wall as if it were made of mist. She moved to the crib, her movements slow and graceful, and lifted the child into her arms. Amara watched, her heart aching. Kim sat in the rocking chair and began to hum. The baby calmed instantly, his tiny hand reaching up toward her face. Kim smiled, so full of love it hurt to see. She fed him, not with milk from a bowl, but with light, a soft, golden glow that seemed to flow from her very being into the child. Amara understood now. This was not just feeding. It was connection, spirit to spirit, mother to child. When the baby was content, Kim looked up and met Amara's eyes. There was no anger there, no accusation, only sadness. "He is still part of me," Kim said softly. "But he must live, and so must you." "I'm sorry," Amara whispered. "I didn't understand." Kim began to fade, her image growing faint. But before she disappeared, she said one last thing. "Feed him tomorrow, with love, not pride." And then she was gone. When morning came, Amara woke with a strange sense of calm. She went to the nursery and found the baby awake, looking at her quietly. For the first time, she did not see Kim when she looked at him. She saw a child, just a child, who needed her. She lifted him gently, cradling him close. I'm sorry I made this so hard, she whispered. She prepared warm milk, sat in the same rocking chair where Kim had sat, and offered it to him. The baby hesitated. Amara's heart clenched. But then, slowly, he latched on and began to drink. Tears fell into his soft hair. Amara rocked him gently, humming the same lullaby she had heard Kim sing. The room filled with the scent of jasmine. Warm, comforting, not frightening anymore. The grandmother appeared in the doorway. She said nothing, but her eyes were wet with tears. When Amara finished feeding the baby, she noticed something strange. On his tiny back, glowing faintly, was the outline of a handprint. Small, delicate, a woman's hand. It glowed for only a moment, then faded. The grandmother gasped softly. She has blessed him, she whispered. And you? Amara nodded, unable to speak. She understood now. Kim had never been her enemy. She had only been a mother, doing what mothers do, loving beyond death, beyond reason, beyond everything. That night, a cool breeze passed through the house. It carried the scent of jasmine and the sound of a distant lullaby. The baby slept peacefully, his breathing steady and calm. Amara lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling. She felt lighter, as if a great burden had been lifted. In her dreams, she saw Kim. She was walking across a moonlit field, her white dress flowing behind her. She was alone, no baby in her arms this time. She walked with peace, with grace, as if her purpose had been fulfilled. Amara called out to her, Kim. The woman stopped and turned. She smiled, gentle, forgiving. Thank you, she said softly, for finishing what I began. Then she turned and continued walking, her figure growing smaller and smaller until she disappeared into the light. When Amara woke, her face was wet with tears. But they were not tears of fear. They were tears of release. The war was over. The haunting had ended. And in its place, peace. The baby no longer cried at night. The jasmine scent faded. The white flowers stopped appearing. Kim had gone to rest. Finally, fully, because her child was safe and loved. Word of what happened spread quietly through the village. Some believed it. Others laughed and called it foolishness. Ghosts don't feed babies, one man said. It was probably just the grandmother sneaking in. But those who had seen Amara's face, who had smelled the jasmine, who had heard the lullaby, they knew. Mama Odu visited the house a few days later. She did not ask questions. She simply placed a white flower on the doorstep and whispered, "Peace restored." The grandmother nodded. Yes, peace. Abadike, too, seemed lighter. He smiled more. He held his son without the shadow of guilt hanging over him. He even began to speak kindly to Amara again. One evening, he said to her, "You did what I could not. You made peace with her." Amara shook her head. "I didn't make peace. I surrendered." Sometimes, Abadike said, that is the same thing. Amara thought about that. Perhaps he was right. Perhaps the only way to win against love was to stop fighting it, to let it be, to honor it, even when it came from the grave. The house felt different now, warmer, lighter, as if a great sadness had finally lifted. And the baby, he thrived. Years passed. The baby grew into a strong, healthy boy. He was kind, thoughtful, and had a strange gift. Whenever other children cried, he could calm them simply by holding their hand. The elders said he carried his mother's grace. Which mother? Someone asked. The elder smiled. Both. On his first birthday, something miraculous happened. A jasmine tree bloomed beside the nursery window. No one had planted it. No one knew where it came from. But there it was tall, fragrant, beautiful. The grandmother wept when she saw it. She's still watching, she whispered. Amara touched the tree gently. She no longer felt jealousy, only gratitude. Thank you, Kim, she said quietly, for trusting me. The tree swayed in the breeze, as if in reply. That night, the boy asked Amara a question. Mama, why do people say I have two mothers? Amara knelt beside him. Because you were loved by two women. One gave you life. The other gave you care. Where's the first one? She watches you from a place we cannot see. But she is always near. The boy smiled. I think I remember her. Amara's breath caught. You do. He nodded. She sings to me sometimes. In my dreams. Amara pulled him close, tears slipping down her cheeks. Then she is never truly gone. Amara changed. Slowly, deeply. She became gentler, humbler. She no longer envied the memory of Kim. Instead, she honored it. She began to care for widows in the village, for mothers who had no help, for children who had no one. She fed them, clothed them, listened to them. When people asked why she did it, she said simply, "Because I was taught that love does not end. It only grows." The grandmother watched her with quiet pride. "You have become the woman you were always meant to be," she told Amara one evening. "It took a ghost to teach me," Amara replied with a sad smile. Sometimes the greatest lessons come from the strangest teachers. One night, as Amara fed a crying orphan in her arms, she heard it again, that soft lullaby. Faint, warm, carried on the wind. She looked around, but no one was there. Only the breeze. Only the stars. She smiled through her tears. "I hear you, Kim," she whispered. "I hear you." And in that moment, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Peace. Not the fragile kind, but the kind that comes from truth, from surrender, from love that outlives death. Years later, when the boy had grown into a man, Amara told him the full story. They sat under the jasmine tree, its blossoms falling like soft snow around them. "So, it was her," he said quietly. "All along." "Yes," Amara replied. "She never abandoned you. Even death could not keep her away. And you fought her." Amara nodded, ashamed. "I did. I was jealous. Afraid. I thought her love made me less. But it didn't." "No," Amara smiled. "It made me more. It taught me what real love looks like." The man was silent for a long moment. Then he asked, "Who fed me when I was small, Mama? Was it you or her?" Amara's eyes filled with tears. "Both of us, my son. She gave you her spirit. I gave him my care. Together, we kept you alive." He reached out and took her hand. "Then I'm grateful to both of you." Amara wept, not from sorrow, but from the beauty of it all. The narrator's voice returns, soft and wise. "Love outlives the flesh that bears it, and envy only starves the soul that holds it. Remember this, my children, when you see a mother's love, honor it, whether she walks the earth or watches from beyond. For no act of love is ever buried, and no act of cruelty goes unseen." The end.